Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today we talk about the rods for Tai Rubber. This is part of the series for Tai Rubber called Tai Rubber 101, and you can check out the playlist. This is the second video that we're putting in that playlist. Now, there are a lot of 101 videos if you want to start fast jigging, slow jigging, light jigging, and all that. Shore jigging. There are playlists in the channel for each of these topics, and we talk about everything from the rod, the reel, and all this, all in different videos in one playlist. So go ahead and check that out. Now, if you browse around and you like what this channel does, please go ahead and subscribe. Very, very important, and it helps the community grow. Now, from time to time, I also go live. So it might be a good idea to click on the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that when I do these things, and sometimes it's kind of impromptu, but we're starting to actually look and see exactly which time of day I should be going live here in the UAE so that a lot of people around the world would be able to participate. So I'm starting to kind of narrow things down already. So yeah, very, very important. Also, when I publish new videos, if you click that notification bell, you'd be informed immediately. All right. I usually publish every other day. So unless there's something pressing and all this, so then I won't be able to keep my schedule but for the most part, I schedule my uploads every other day. Alrighty. So that's kind of like how we do things in the channel. Now, on to the topic. So, before we actually talk about the Tai Rubbers themselves, I've already mentioned in the introduction that it belongs to a family. Okay, it belongs to the Tenya family of fishing styles or fishing techniques. And for Tenya, okay, the rod that you want is actually something that has a soft tip. Now, things have changed so much because this fishing method in ancient Japan, and believe it or not, this is an ancient type of fishing, okay? It has existed for a really long time, and obviously they didn't have rods in the past. It's all hand line, but the lines that we're using are very different, okay? Now, I'm gonna show you guys exactly what the fishing line looks like. Now, this isn't the whole fishing line. I'm thinking this is probably the first section, but what it is just your fishing line, and then there's sinkers tied up about spaced out about an inch or so from each other. And what this does is give it weight without a lot of drag. And these things, these tools, okay, are used on the bottom, and this is something that you should actually be very mindful about. It's a bottom fishing technique, okay? So it's literally fishing in the lower column of the water, and that's something that you should actually think about. Now, Tai, okay, or the Japanese sea bream, is a type of fish. Now, there's the Madai. This is the one that they want. Now, when in doubt, look at the picture. So this is the fish that we're talking about right here. Okay, so this particular fish is very important in Japan, religious and economic reasons. Okay, so I don't know if you're into sumo wrestling. I watch it, but find it really interesting. But one of the prizes that they give away to sumo wrestlers is the Tai. Okay, and the sumo wrestlers are actually considered samurai. Like even now, you know, they're considered samurai, and it holds significance in Japanese culture. So when you're given a Tai, okay, it's very symbolic. Now, when it comes to these things, obviously, it has a very significant economic importance and also traditional and spiritual. And you could just imagine how specialized the gear is for this. And they're very, very specific. So even before, think about this. they went into such great detail when it comes to making these that even till this day you can buy them. Okay, because there are still some people in Japan using the most traditional methods in catching these fish, and that's that. You know, it is literally a type of fishing where you concentrate on the bottom of the water column. Okay, so aside from this pit right here, which is literally where you put your bait, connected to this traditionally is a long piece of line. Let's say there's a leader, and then there's a long piece of line, and then there's like small sinkers spaced, uh, and that is to have very little drag when you drop it down, but have the necessary weight to actually bring the system down. Now, in modern times, obviously, things are different. Now we use braid, okay? And together with that, it actually brings these things down to a level, and mind you, this is this fishing method maxes out at about 100 meters, okay, for like almost non-specialized gear. So you can fish these for 100 meters more or less, okay? Now, you use the same formula that we use on slow jigging in general. That is 1 gram per meter. So at 100 meters, you'll have like more or less 100 grams. Okay? Now, just to give you an idea, this thing here is 80 grams. So this is good for waters of like 60 to 80 meters, not feet, meters. Okay? So about 60 meters, you would use this when there's current. Okay? So that is 80 grams. This is 40, just to give you an idea. Okay? So I use this in waters around 30 meters. So let's say 30, 40, 50 meters, depending on the current. Okay? So that's 40-gram one. Now, you could obviously you could fish these in waters where there's current, but it's shallower. Okay. Now, the rods that you use, the most important thing that you should actually remember is that it should have like a soft tip. Now, I'm gonna show you before we play around with things. I'm gonna show you a rod that's specialized for Tai rubber. Okay. This rod is already discontinued, and I've had this for some time. And if you could see there, there's a TR, okay, Tai rubber spec. This was from the NP Jack line of Majorcraft, which is already discontinued. Okay, now, it doesn't mean to say that you have to look for this rod, but there are equivalents for this rod that you can buy. Now, the one thing that you need to actually pay attention to is the tip. Okay, because the tip of this is actually very soft. Okay, so as you can see here, let me read the specs. Okay, so that you would understand. This is a max 80 gram. Okay, PE 0.4 to 1. Max 80 gram. Okay, this rod is 6'9" in length. Now, you pay attention to the tip. You can see that the tip here, okay, is actually quite thin. All right, see that? Quite thin and very sensitive. Okay, now this is an ultralight rod that I have. Now let's actually compare the tip so that you can see. All right, there. You can see that the tips, the diameter of the tips are actually quite similar. So, having said that, I could tell you that this tip is actually very sensitive. Okay, now if we do a bend, you'll see that it's relatively fast. Okay, but the tip is quite small. So what the design is of the rod is that you have a tip that's very sensitive and the back that's actually, it has some good backbone. Okay, so this rod basically is designed for the tap detection. Okay, now when you're reeling, when you're fishing this, the tip actually bends slightly like that, and then when you get a strike, you immediately feel it. Okay, and most of the time you don't feel like a strong strike, you just feel ta 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 ta, you know, and it literally feels as if it's going ta 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 ta. Now I'm gonna put a reel just for example, and this is the reel that I pair it with. Okay, normally let me take this one here. Okay, the last time I used this was the combo. Okay, so I'm gonna show you. The majority of the reels that we use for this type of fishing, if not all the reels that are encouraged for this type of fishing, have a level wind. So we'll talk more about the reels soon. So you have a reel and a rod, sensitive, but the rod itself, you know, because of the tip, once you're reeling in, you'll feel the jig move, but more importantly, you'll feel the taps of the smaller fish. Okay, so the tip serves a few things. One, bite detection. So you'll feel the taps. And then once the fish bites, okay, the tip bends heavily because guess what? You don't set the hook. What happens is that the fish sets the hook itself. And then it acts as a cushion and a shock absorber when you fight the fish. So it's not just a bite detection. Okay, you don't set the hook. I mean, you can, but you don't. Once the fish bites, you fight with the rod. You don't pump, you just flat wind. When you pump, especially with these rods, what happens is that it's not gonna do much. Okay, it basically acts as a cushion so that the fish wouldn't be able to shake the jig off. Okay, very, very important. Now, the weight of the jig makes the rod bend a little bit. Okay, the taps that you're feeling would be from the smaller fish actually biting on the skirt. And when a big one comes along, okay, what's gonna happen is that it's gonna bite the jig and run with it, and then the two hooks would most likely snag it, usually on the lips somewhere. Okay, so when they get hooked, they try to shake it off. The rod acts as a cushion, so you won't lose the fish. Now, when you're pumping it, kind of a disadvantage because the shock absorbing power just kind of, you know, doesn't really do much. So you just reel. A little bit of pumping won't help, won't hurt. Okay, but not like you're pumping tuna or whatever. It doesn't do you any good for these rods. Now, having said that, okay, there are other rods that you could use. It's not that for super specialized, let's say, efficiency, when you're talking about efficiency, and you want a rod that's dedicated for that, then something like that will really help you out. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean to say that other rods won't be able to handle the work. Okay. Now, these are some of the rods that I use for that kind of fishing. Okay, actually these three. Now, as you can see, majority of the rods that I have as examples are overheads. Okay, for a lot of reasons really, but overheads are kind of like the default when it comes to this. Now, This rod you won't be able to buy, but I'm gonna talk about why I use it later. Okay. This rod is probably still available. This rod has been discontinued. But all of these actually share a few things. But these are very soft tip rods. Okay. This one is actually a slow jigging rod. And I use this for heavier Tai rubber. Okay. So this is a max 100, I believe. Yeah, a max 100-gram rod. Now I could easily use my other rod, which is a Zen Zagan. Okay. But this is a very old Adagio. This is the first version Adagio from Gomoku. And I use this because unlike the what do you call this? The Kiryu, which was the white and green Gomoku rod, and then also the Emera, which is the newer version, Max 80 and Max 60 rods. Okay, this one, it has a more forgiving blank. And if you have those rods, you can use them as well. Okay, so the Emera is one, so that can be used. But this has a very, as you can see, a soft tip. Okay, and I use this for heavier jigs, like take for example 80, 100, and they work well. The Belize is actually one of those that I've used very successfully as well for this sort of fishing. I pair this with a 200 sized reel. Okay, so something like this works really, really well. And again, just because of the soft tip. Okay, now this is a light jigging rod. It is from Abu Garcia. Okay, KRX salty stage. Very good tip, very light tip as well. Okay, and almost similar to the first rod. This is shorter. This is 6'3", 6'1", 6'3". Okay, 6'3", and this is max 80. Okay, now a very good guideline for this is if you have max 80, you can go up to 100 grams on this. Okay, obviously this one, as I stated earlier, a bit even heavier. This is max 100, but you can load up to 150 on this. Now I use this when the water is actually swift and or the current is actually running faster, so I use this. Now in regular currents is or deeper water, actually I use that. Now in the Gulf, where the water doesn't exceed more than 30 meters, most of the time this is what I use. Okay, this or this. Okay, so this particular one is about the same as this. There's a slight difference in this. This I designed, and this was supposed to be a project for tackle shop here, and it didn't push through, so too bad. But it has fewer guides because it's a spiral. Okay, and it's also lighter. So this is max 60, I believe. Max 40 grams. And this is what makes it very lethal because it's a really a lighter rod, and it's very difficult to actually find a rod like this for this purpose. Okay, and it was an all-around. I designed it to be an all-around rod, but what it specializes on is literally slow jigging, very light slow jigging. Okay, but if you don't have since you can't have this, okay, the best thing is to look for a rod that's similar to this. Okay, so KRX salty stage. This is max 1.5 PE 1.5, max 80 grams. Okay, I pair this with a 200 HG or a 200 PG. So this, or you could use your Blue Safari if you have it. get a blue safari with a shallow spool, fill it up with 1.5, and Bob's your uncle. But for this particular one, because I fish predominantly in the Gulf, okay, which is less than 30 meters or less. Let's say max 40 meters. A 200 sized reel does it. Okay. Now, it depends. It depends on how the fish respond, but I use either an HG or a PG. I take both reels and then try them on for a time. If the fish respond to the PG more than the HG, I'll use the PG the whole day. If the bite slows down, I'll put on the HG and then see if they respond. If they don't, then I switch to a different method. But see, here's the thing. This can do more than just tie rubber. This does fast jigging and slow jigging. So with this particular reel, I can do 3 disciplines, right? So I can put my PG on this, put a jig, fast jig, and then I can jig it. Boom. I could put a slow jig, and it works. Now, when the fish aren't really biting, guess what? I could use a Tenya on this. Now, a very big advantage because for the Tai Rubber, I probably won't use it for bait because the tip is not as robust as the tip that you have here. Okay, this has a slight disadvantage as far as sensitivity is concerned. Okay, so you won't feel a lot of the tiny taps, especially if you have a heavy reel. So that's something that you need to consider when you're choosing a rod. Okay, if you're not buying a Tai Rubber specific rod, okay, so a light jigging rod like this will work. But something to consider is the weight of the Tai Rubber you're putting on this. This is a max 80. I will put a minimum of 60 grams, okay, and a maximum of 120 on this. That's it. Now, as you can see, I go way past the the 80 spec of this rod because for Tai Rubber, okay, it's actually kind of an advantage to have a little bit of a bend. Okay, so when you have that bend, what happens is it forces sensitivity. So if I put 80 on this, which is this size right here, okay, if I put 80 on this and it will have a slight bend, okay, what happens is that because everything is tight, vibrations would be transmitted quite fast. Okay, if let's say it's kind of not bent out, okay, if you put something light and it's not bent, you won't feel a lot of the bites. So putting something that's on or near the maximum spec of the rod actually gives you a slight advantage when it comes to detection. Okay, now I could use inchiku on this as well. So I have literally used this on this rod and it worked really well. So this is a 70 gram, and again, how it's this rod is not designed to be cast like that. Okay, you could lob, and I've done it. Now remember, these reels don't have cast control, so the most that you could do is just lob. Again, because it's close to the maximum, that's 70 grams. This is a max 80 rod. If you can find a max 60, even better, because especially when you're fishing shallower water. So what happens is that it bends, okay, slightly, and everything is tight, and you'd be able to feel the vibration of the lure. If you feel taps, okay, because it's tight, those taps from the smaller fish you would more likely feel than with the what do you call this, with the, let's say, a stiffer rod, okay, or if your lure is actually below the weight where it bends the tip, and that's kind of important. So again, when you're buying if you're using a non-Tai rubber rod, which is this is a light jigging rod, a slight bend, so you go a bit higher than the spec of the rod. Now, spinning. I don't use Tai rubber for this particular rod, but it is a good all-around rod. Now, again, this is a medium action rod, so it has a softer tip. It's a 7-footer. It's a softer tip. Now, being spinning, meaning it's also kind of soft. So this particular rod can be used for the purpose. But the only thing that I use on this rod is actually inchiku, and it works really well. Okay. Now the thing with inchiku is that you could actually use any sort of rod and reel with it. And this is what a lot of people kind of are digging for. A lot of people are asking like if there are specific inchiku rods and reels, and then they use it with the Tai rubber stuff. But no, you could use it on a hand line. You could use it on this. Okay. And the most important thing is that you don't cast it. Okay. So this particular rod is actually maxed out at 1 ounce. So what is it? 28 grams. And look, this is 70 grams. So 3 times the recommended weight. But because it's, again, it flexes the tip. Okay? It flexes the tip and makes it a bit more, what do you call this? Sensitive. And I use it only for inchiku. Now, there's been a kind of a not resurgence, but there's specialized rods. It's very difficult to find, like Tai rubber rods, okay, that are spinning. But guys in Japan, and this is something that's relatively new, guys in Japan have actually found that you can use spinning gear with great effectivity on difficult days. I have one rod that can do the job. Okay, now I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna show you the specs. Okay, so this rod is max 60 grams. Okay, so if I'm using this, I'm staying within the bounds of the rod. Okay, this is actually kind of long. This is 7'3". Okay, and 2-piece. The maximum weight that it can carry is 60 grams. So I use only up to 60. Majority of the time, I actually use 40 on this rod. And I use very thin line for this. Okay, the reel is a PG, and the what do you call this? The reel is filled with 0.4 PE. So thinner line. Okay, and smaller Tai rubber. I use the 20, 30, 40 grams exclusively on this. Now let me show you the tip, because this is something that shocks a lot of people. As far as the action is concerned, obviously it has the softness that you need. But the last time I used this, the tip broke because the deckhand grabbed it and pulled it. There, as you can see, this thing is super thin. Ultralight even. Okay. Now, this rod is an Ika metal. It's a squidding rod. Okay. But it works. It works. The tip is, like I said, it bends because of the soft tip, and it allows it that extra bit of sensitivity when it comes to that, see, super, and it's a fast rod, but as you can see there, it forces the sensitivity on this thing. Size 3000 or 2500 with a very thin line. Now, when the current is dead and you need to present something small, this rod shines. I would not fish this rod if the current was swift. Okay, now also I won't fish this rod if I don't intend to be super careful, and I wouldn't fish this rod unless I have a deckhand or a captain that's very familiar with light tackle, because again, the last time a guy just takes the line, boom, snaps it, and I just caught like 2 fish and my trip was over. So if I look at the calendar or the tides and I see that it's difficult, I'm probably going to brief one guy that would help me net this fish. Then yeah, this is something that, but on a shared trip, probably not something I would take with me. Okay, now some key points to consider when you're buying the rod. Okay, if you are buying a Tai Rubber rod specifically, there are a lot of alternatives. Now, I think Storm in Asia has a model for this. Okay, hold on. Storm Tai Rubber rod. And, rods from Storm or Rapala, actually quite good. It's called the Tenacious. There we go. You can get it at 7Cs. You can find it or see it in 7Cs. Okay, and it has a price right now. It has a price of 3,600 baht. So this is a 2-piece rod, similar to what I have, but 2-piece. Okay, so again, if you want something, I could recommend this. And it's not because I worked for them before, but whenever Fred and Nigel and the rest of the guys in Southeast Asia, when they build a rod, they make it a point to actually add value to the rod. So it's not just that it performs, but there's it's not too expensive that people wouldn't be able to buy it, and it's pretty good most of the time. Okay, so if you're looking for a budget rod, okay, I could recommend this. Okay, so Tenacious, Storm Tenacious, STC69B. It's a bait Tai Rubber. Okay, so it's 60 to 200 grams, and it is 0.8 to 2 butt joint. All right, rod weight is 140 grams, so it's quite light. Okay, so something for you guys to check out. Now, if you can find a rod similar to this one right here, and mind you, you know what? I used to use this with 20-gram jigs for jigging. Works excellent. Works really well. Okay, so the closest one that you would be able to get for this would be a 5G, because this line, the N1 or the NP jack before, it was kind of like the line with the nanotechnology from Majorcraft. So a similar rod for the N1 would be like the 5G models. Okay, so giant killing, maybe more than likely giant killing 5G if there's a Thai. Let's check that out actually. Okay, let's see in the Majorcraft website. This won't be long. Okay, it's not gonna be cheap. Majorcraft has been, oh, they have a new website. So the, what do you call this? The Majorcraft has been kind of doing really well when it comes to their offshore. There we go, jigging. Squid Tai Rubber. Okay, and Hitotsu Tenya. Okay, so Grand Ship, 1G, full solly, Tai Rubber, Salto Crosser, Giant Killing. There we go. So Giant Killing Tai Rubber model. Okay. So 19,000. Yeah. So they have a rod that's similar to mine. This is it. The GXJ B68 LTR/S. So that is max 80 gram, 0.4 to 1. Extra fast. So very similar to this one. 6'8". Okay. So this is 6'9". So an inch shorter. They have a max 120 and a max 160. And yeah, they have several models for you to choose from, but Giant Killing Tai Rubber model, definitely the replacement for this. If you want something that's a bit better now for the budget conscious, the Tenacious. Okay. Now there are top end rods for these as well, if you want. Okay. Then Tailwalk has it. There's like a lot of companies, but I mean, for stuff like this, if you're planning to do it or specialize on it, then great, invest in everything. But for me, I don't do a lot of this type of fishing because I find it kind of boring sometimes, the fishing method itself, I like it, but the fact that I've been stung by the hook so many times because of this scared me. Okay, so I don't do a lot of this because back in the day when I worked for Rapala, there was just a lot of things to do. Plus, there weren't like a specialized rod for it. The Tenacious wasn't there yet, And then the Dukan, when I started pushing it, the stocks for this was actually heavily delayed. So, kind of didn't really push through with it, and I concentrated on other products to use. Because whatever I was using, a lot of people were kind of having an interest on it, and then that would sell. So if I use this, right? If I use Tai Rubber a lot, and people would see it, and then they look for the product, they wouldn't find the product. What they ended up doing was actually buy the other brands, and that's literally what happened. But instead of actually bringing a specialized rod, I started using this, and the other Rapala rods, the Belize in particular, because it had like a very soft tip. I think that was the Belize is like a max 120, and it works so well, like from 40 grams all the way up to 80 for the waters here. It worked really, really, really well. And let me show you one of the heads. This is like one use or two uses. Okay. This is the tail of this particular one. Okay, so kind of falling apart there. Silicone is all over the place. So hold on. Let me get that. But look at the head, how battered it is. That's one or two uses. Okay, that thing is so battered, man. And it just shows you the effectivity of this thing. So the biggest problem before was that the stocks, they didn't arrive on time, so I couldn't really use this, like at least when people are seeing me. And while I was not filming or taking pictures for the brand, I was using them, okay, with different equipment. And that's when I saw that the light jigging rods worked really well. and that was that. Now, obviously, at the same time, I was also checking out the inchikus, and what I found is that I attracted a lot of toothy fish with inchikus, whereas I would be catching a lot of snappers and groupers with these Tai Rubber. So, I mean, they're effective and very, very easy to use. You just throw and reel. That's it. There's no other thing that you need to use or do anything special or whatnot. But the rod is is kind of like a very important point to consider when you're doing stuff like this, especially when you're doing Tai Rubber, because for Tai Rubber, the fish nibble before they actually, or before a big one comes along and slams, whereas this attracts a lot of predators, okay, because of how it swims. It like I mentioned, it swims like a spoon, so it swims like that. This dances and it attracts more fish, whereas predominantly for this, it's the tail that moves a little bit, and that's what attracts the fish. So when you're bottom fishing, you drop it down, you reel and all that, and then you just start feeling the small bites. Whereas with the inchiku, you cast out, you don't really, you feel the lure swimming, and then bang, it just gets slammed. It really doesn't happen a lot on Tai Rubber, but with the Tai Rubber, at least, you know, you need that tip to have the cushion. So when you're choosing a rod, or at least to use, there's two things you need to keep in mind. You use a heavier weight on your Tai Rubber, which bends the tip and forces the sensitivity. Okay? Or you find a rod with a soft tip. That's it. Alrighty? So hopefully this kind of information is useful for you in choosing your rod. I wouldn't recommend actually going out and buying a different rod if you already have a light jigging rod. Now, it's a different story if you happen to love this sort of fishing and you want to buy equipment for it. Then those two rods that I have shown you or discussed earlier, okay? So one is the solid tip Tai Rubber Giant Killing model GXJ B68 LTR/S. That's very similar to what I have here. Okay, so that's kind of like the replacement for this rod. So that's something for you to check out. Otherwise, check out the Tenacious from Storm in Southeast Asia. Okay, now if you want something that's higher end than those two, then that's your choice. Again, there's different rods. Just do a search and then you'll find that there's a lot of rods that actually have like super good rods or more expensive brands for these. But since I have this, okay, and I've used a lot of the Storm rods, those are the two brands that I actually can recommend. Alrighty, that's it for this video. I think it's pretty straightforward, right? If you have questions, drop them down in the comments, and then after that we can discuss. I'm probably gonna post information for the rods, and maybe I can actually look around Amazon in Japan and then send you links on that as well, so that you can check out for yourself and then see exactly which one you want to buy. But yeah, I mean, Tenacious, not bad. Feedback that I've heard from Rodney that have used this rod, okay, my friend Rodney, it's actually pretty good, you know. So again, I am I can vouch for these two rods. Okay, now as we progress, we'll find that there's actually some things that are discontinued and stuff, and then we could just look for replacements or something that's similar. Okay, this snapper ball in particular, I don't know if it's still being sold now, but we'll discuss more about this and why I like it. Okay, this is from Storm as well. I'm pretty sure it's still sold. I'm not too sure. I mean, I haven't really looked into this Yozuri has some really good ones. Okay, so pretty sure those are still available. But most of these are actually a few years old because I haven't done this sort of fishing for a really significant amount of time. Doesn't mean to say that they stop being effective. Alrighty. Now, if you haven't yet and you want to learn more, click on that subscribe button. Okay. And while you're at it, and if you learned something in this video, give it a thumbs up. Very, very important for the YouTube algorithm. It's kind of weird these days that the videos are not really being found. It's strange. Also, I'd like to thank the members. Okay, thank you very much for your support. The members actually support this channel, support me directly by contributing a membership fee. Now, if you want to do the same and help this channel grow even faster so that I can continue to create content such as this, and this is literally like the only educational fishing channel on YouTube that discusses these things, like at least the technicalities of that. A lot of the channels are mostly show and tell videos. Okay, we do educational fishing videos. So if you want to support me or support this channel, go ahead and click that membership button. And that is it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.